Hi, I'm Ryan Hunter, and this is Kalispell Connections, a program where we talk about issues important to the community. And with me today is Renee Cordes, the Biology and Environmental Systems and Societies teacher and Science Club advisor at Flathead High School, and Keanu Ng, the Flathead High School freshman. Welcome to you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Renee, I'd like to start with you. As the Science Club advisor working with students on science fair projects, what do you see as the importance of these science competitions for students and in their education?
I guess first and foremost, it's a chance for kids to be creative. Oftentimes in the science curriculum, we're very directed as to what they have to accomplish, and they don't get those moments to wonder. I think science fair allows kids to explore their own special interests. It's not very, I guess there's not a lot of structure to it. So figuring out what to do and how to do it can seem incredibly overwhelming at first. And to realize that science is messy and it doesn't turn out the way that they had planned, and to deal with those frustrations, it's this gigantic growth experience for them as they approach these science fairs. This year was tough with the science fair because everything was virtual. So one of the values that they also receive is when you're at the science fair, you can see what everyone else has done. You can see how they presented their projects, what their data looks like, and it kind of helps you self-evaluate. Oh, I could add that, or that was a really good approach to that particular topic. And so when we usually get to attend, that's another, I guess, large benefit to the science fairs. So being creative and seeing the work that other people are doing, I think, is incredibly important.
I imagine you work very closely with these students as they prepare for these efforts. How much pride do you have being a teacher and kind of helping them shepherd their projects along and seeing those results when somebody like Keanu is so successful with it?
You know, it's wonderful. Not just Keanu, but I have a senior who's been in the science club for 3 years now, and I've watched the growth and complexity of his projects over the years. His project this year was also phenomenal. We've got Keanu coming in hot off the press, or right off the as a freshman. He already had some great ideas in middle school, and he's building upon those. So it's nice to have fresh blood into the program who I'm pretty sure he's going to stick with it for the next 4 years. So that's exciting too. We do work closely together. We're here after school every day. They take over my classroom and all the empty spaces that we've got. I try to connect them with mentors if I don't know, because sometimes they're doing things that are outside of my experience. And so, but I never say no. You know, it's always possible. It's just, how are we going to accomplish this? So it's wonderful. It's great. Our club is small but growing, and I'm looking forward to next year. We're going to do even better things. So.
Now, Keanu, you won the Stockholm Junior Water Prize this recently, and also last fall, I understand, competed in the Broadcom Masters, which I don't know exactly what that is, but it sounds, you know, you have a lot of accomplishment in the field of science. I saw also online that you were awarded the best conservation-themed science project by the Flathead Audubon as a sixth grader. So a lot of impressive accomplishments in your efforts in science. And I saw that a lot of your themes are environmental concerns. And I'm wondering, what in your background, how did you come to take an interest both in science, but also in the environmental side of science and environmental conservation issues?
Well, let's see. I've always had this deep interest in nature and the ocean specifically. And I think it all stemmed from David Attenborough documentaries, Sylvia Earle documentaries, and, you know, Jacques Cousteau. And as a kid, I would always, and I think that's the number one cause. And as a kid, I would always play around with these ocean-themed toys and watch these documentaries. And when the oil spill happened off the Mexico, I, of course, would be playing in a bathtub, making up these fake scenarios of helping all the animals from the oil spill.
Yeah, I'm a big Edinburgh documentary fan as well. I watch a lot of those in my free time as well, so I can certainly sympathize with that. So your project was analyzing the efficacy of coconut oil to remove microplastics from the water. Could you talk first about what is the concern about microplastics in water that you were trying to address?
So currently, microplastics are just tiny, tiny little piece of plastic under 5 millimeters, and they come from everywhere. Since we make most of everything out now from plastics, they can come from washing your clothes. They can come from uh, just tossing a bottle of water off the road. It's going to break down into these tiny, tiny pieces of plastic. And currently, wastewater treatment plants are ineffective at catching these microplastics. These microplastics then make their way to the ocean. And when in the ocean, they attract all sorts of toxins like motor oil and pesticides, and fish and animals don't realize that these microplastics aren't food. And so they eat them thinking that they're eating healthy food. And then the microplastics lodge themselves in the fish's stomach. And as the fish tries to digest the plastic, the toxins that the microplastic has collected gets absorbed into the fish's body. And when we catch and eat those fish, we are eating those toxins that it has eaten too.
Yeah, certainly a big problem. And talk about your project of the coconut oil and how you came about that for those of us not getting too far into the details of the science of it, but just kind of how you came about the project and a little bit about the details of how your results and your findings.
So I was reading a little paper on how they used plastics to catch oil from oil spills, and how these tiny little plastics would attract all these oils around them, and you'd be able to scoop up the plastics along with the oil that it's collected. And I thought we could maybe reverse engineer this process to have the oil catching the plastic from the ocean. And so I thought coconut oil would be a good use because it has such a low melting temperature and it's natural and it's very nice for your hands.
Yeah, and so you were looking at this and what were your results and what kind of reaction did you get when you presented it at Science Fair?
Well, my results proved that coconut oil is very effective at removing these microplastics from the water. Most reached a 90% removal from the testing that I did. And, oh, sorry, what was your other question?
Just the reaction of the science fair when you presented it.
Oh, I don't really know actually. All the judges had their masks on, but the ones that were all alone seemed to have very good reactions to my project.
Yeah, and so how much time would you say you put into developing that project? What kind of time commitment goes into this effort?
Oh, hours and hours and hours. I spent, let's see, I think maybe 5 weekends trapped in a small little cupboard trying to do these light readings with the microplastics. And that's a big time commitment.
Renee,
Let's see, I think I
go.
spent like 1,000 hours on it.
1,000? Really?
Well, somewhere in that ballpark.
That's a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah, Renee, you spoke to just really the time commitment that students put into this and really how much effort goes into it. Do you want to speak to some of what you've witnessed from other students and maybe some of the other projects that students were involved in the science fair?
Yeah. Our students really, they dream up their projects in late September, early October. We had a crew that really got started right around mid-October, and they were growing duckweed in order to remove caffeine out of water. And so in order to get through successive life cycles, that ran through January. And they're counting tiny fronds and they're doing extractions. And so they would spend, I can't even, at least a month worth of 2 hours after school running pieces of their project to put it together. We had some boys who constructed a UV box in order to determine whether viruses could be killed by light. They were trying to design a hat that would kill viruses so we didn't have to wear masks. And so just the physics of building that project, dispersing the light and aerosolizing viruses, that was a learning experience and took a significant time commitment. So the kids were really creative this year, and they showed a huge commitment to what their projects. Yeah.
Have you been in the program, involved in the program long enough that you've seen students after they've left high school and gone on, the impact of their involvement in science on their future careers later in life? Have you heard back from any students about that experience and how it impacted them?
So for Science Club, this is my 3rd year as advisor. So I'll be graduating my first senior. So I can let you know on that end of it. But I have been teaching for 22 years, and I'm a huge believer in field experiences. And a significant number of my students go on to pursue careers in the same field, in the environmental sciences field that I teach. And so I'd say about 75% of my kids are currently conducting research in the field. I've got a student who's doing water quality in California. I've got another one working on succession after volcanoes in South America. So yeah, when they learn about just, I don't know, the coolness of doing science, it's not just all scripted, they get really excited.
Maybe a question for both of you, but in high schools we celebrate a lot of the the sports achievements, and science fair though is very much I think on par with that in terms of accomplishment. Does the school, do your peers, Keanu, recognize the success and the achievements in science that you have at school among your peers? Do they recognize that accomplishment?
Well, let's see. So far, I've had only 2 people that have come up to me and said, "Hey, good job on the science fair," and that's about it compared to the school sports where they have this huge band coming down the hallways and all these kids cheering.
Yeah, yeah. We don't get the press. No.
Yeah. Well, I hope I'm correct for that a little bit here, and I hope someday we have a band playing for our science fair winners. And Keanu, one additional question for you: what do you see for your future? Where do you hope to take your interest in science, and maybe future projects, future ideas you have, or a future career?
Well, I've always wanted to head into marine sciences or ecological sciences because, those David Attenborough documentaries got me hooked and I've been set for life.
But he's also obsessed with paleontology.
Oh, yeah, paleontology.
Yeah, he really is. So.
Yeah.
A choice to make then there.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you both so much for joining me today. It's so inspiring to hear. I love that we have such a great program at Flathead High School, and I know Glacier High School as well. Shout out to them. They have a great program as well, and students who are being very successful as well. So, and Keanu, I predict a bright future for you. Your interest and level of success is wonderful. So thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.